Hi, my name is Lara and welcome to my channel, Inner Goddess Guidance. I created this channel as part of my mission as a divine feminine on the twin flame path, and it is really for doing the work of healing, self-healing on the path towards self-mastery. Thank you to all of you who are new and watching for the first time. I hope that you find something valuable here to take with you and to assist you in your journey. And please like, subscribe, leave a comment. I love comments, and start a discussion. Maybe you want to add to whatever came out and help others with that insight. I love it when people do that. It starts a discussion, and I think that's really healthy. So I have created a group on my Facebook that's a closed group that's also affiliated with the channel called Inner Goddess Guidance, and there's a link in the description box. If you would like to join that group, please just submit a request and I will let you in the group. There's 70 of us in the group now, and it's a beautiful group filled with all kinds of conversation and people sharing their own experiences and focused on their own healing. And what we're doing there primarily is working on our own personal oracle decks. And then when we're finished with that, we're going to combine our cards to create one oracle deck that we will then produce and share with the world on a bigger basis. So it's a really wonderful experience and very healing. We are focused on our own healing and not on our divine masculines or any kind of complaining. We avoid all kinds of lower vibrational stuff there. It's all about our own journey and our own healing. So I have decided to divide up the videos that I do, and so this video is just going to be a daily guidance video where I pull one Goddess Oracle card and one Language of Letting Go card by Melody Beatty, and combine those two to create an affirmation. Hopefully short and sweet. We're letting sort of spirit decide through the cards what we need to hear today. And in terms of the oracle card conversations, sort of delving deep and me providing some other resources for those, I'm going to be producing those separately. So I'll do another one after this video that is primarily focused on the cards. Okay, so we're going to call in spirit. Dear spirit of the universe, of love and light, please be with us in this time and space as we focus our collective intention on gaining wisdom and guidance for our journey toward healing and self-mastery. We ask for open hearts and minds to receive the messages that will serve our highest and best good, in the service of healthy love in all forms, with deep gratitude. Thank you. So first I'm drawing from the Goddess Oracle by Amy Sophia Mereshinsky and Juana Danto. Spirit, please give us one Goddess guidance for the day, a card and energy that can give us a new perspective, guide us for what's going on in the collective. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. There we are. Rhiannon, doubt. Rhiannon, doubt. She's beautiful there. I'll give you a minute to really look at the card. Okay. Oh, I keep passing her. Wait, where is she? Why isn't she? There she is. Okay. Rhiannon, doubt. I wasn't certain, after all. My face had blood on it. All fingers pointed to me. Could I have killed him? My infant son? My own? In my sleep? I was accused and found guilty. And I doubted myself for 7 long years. I played horse to my lord husband Pwyll's guests, carrying them into court, carrying them out again. And the times were many when I doubted myself, doubted along with all the other humans, that because I was from the other world, anything was possible. The Welsh horse goddess of the underworld, Rigatona, or Great Queen, was Rhiannon's original name. Her story was reduced to something of a fairy tale, just as her name was changed from Great Queen. Though not human, she married Pwyll, a mortal, and bore him a son who disappeared at birth. The attendant maids smeared the blood of a puppy on Rhiannon's face and accused her of eating her child. Rhiannon was sentenced to carry all her husband's guests on her back. When her son reappeared after 7 years, all lived happily ever after. Rhiannon gallops into your life to tell you how to work with doubt. To doubt someone or something when your instincts are giving you warning signals is healthy. To spend time doubting yourself is self-negating and not very helpful. The best way of working with self-doubt is to turn it into self-questioning. Self-doubt leads you nowhere. Self-questioning gives you answers. Do you get stuck in doubt and let it turn your optimism into despair, your confidence into low self-esteem, your vitality into sluggishness and procrastination? Does doubt align itself with your fears to keep you from succeeding? Do the doubts of others shipwreck your dream boat? Perhaps where the outside world is concerned, you need to exercise a bit more skepticism rather than trusting blindly. Rhiannon tells you not to let doubt erode your sacred self. Allow yourself to question rather than doubt so that you can gain the answers you need to continue on your path to wholeness. It's sometimes, I had somebody comment on Facebook today, not Facebook, Instagram. I'm just going to look it up quickly what I posted because it was an interesting conversation. How do I find what I Oh, here it is. So I had posted this quote by Rumi. It said, "Your heart knows the way. Run in that direction." And one of my followers said, well, when she said, let's see if I can find it. Easy to say. What if one is so stuck she has no idea which of the voices is her heart? And so to me, this connects to the self-doubt, because we do have many voices inside of us talking. We sort of have our self-judgmental, voice. And sometimes that voice is encouraged by things that happen outside of us. And sometimes that voice is fear talking, or insecurities talking. And one of the piece of advice that I would give if you are experiencing self-doubt is to get really quiet and do some meditation. You don't have to think about it as a kind of meditative practice where you're clearing your mind. What you want to do is you want to calm your prefrontal cortex. In other words, you want to sort of separate out the voices. Because when we're confused and we're in self-doubt, we are hearing lots of different things. So we want to turn down the volume on all of that and sort of separate out the voices. And you can actually just have a conversation with your doubt. And as you're having that conversation, ask questions of it. Let the voice that is the doubt come out and just say, what are you doubting? Why are you doubting it? Where did that come from? When did I first feel that doubt? Because it might be connected to something that happened to you a long time ago, maybe even a traumatic experience. So let's just use the example of driving. So if the very first time you went out to drive, you had an accident, or you just, something happened and you lost kind of control for a minute and it scared you. You might doubt your ability the next time you went driving to drive efficiently or to drive well, right? To be skilled at that. And so your self-doubt later on, if you found yourself in a similar circumstance, that doubt may come up again. So it's connected to an experience you had. And so if you can go back and you can be non-judgmental and say, you know what, I was learning and that was just that experience. That doesn't mean that I'm going to have the same experience in the future. When you have many voices going on and you're trying to figure out which voice is, let's say, your heart talking, where your heart wants to go. Once you sort of deal with the doubt and then you calm that, you can sort of call your heart forward in your mind, in your meditation, and then look at the different options in front of you. So let's say you had 3 job offers. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? And you were trying to decide which one, and maybe all of them had some advantages and all of them had some disadvantages. Most things do. And you were really torn because you felt like you were doubting yourself if you could make the right choice. Because when we get in those kinds of situations where we're making some big decisions, I think that sometimes the fear comes up of, what if I'm wrong? What if I make the wrong choice? And so to first be curious about your doubt and then deal with it, like have a conversation and then set that aside. And then in your mind, call your heart forward, put the 3 situations in front of you. And what I would do is sort of play them in your mind as if it's like a movie, or as if somebody is offering you a piece of paper or something and the facts are just written down in front of you. And then the image came to me of, let your heart be like a little puppy and let your heart run to the one that makes it feel good, that it wants to be with. And so as you're playing through the image of each scenario in your mind, maybe one of them requires you to move. And so, allow yourself to play out moving to a new place and what that might be like, and living in that new place. Allow yourself to picture yourself walking into the job and what you already know about the people who work there. And do that for each situation. And as you do, notice in your own body if there's any changes in how you feel. For example, your body might get nervous at one. You might be having more of a fear reaction than something else, right? Another one might make you feel really excited. And another one might just make you feel not really anything at all. So become aware of what your body is doing, your body physical responses. And then I would just imagine that your heart could run to the one it most wanted. and see if you get any answers that way. So you're doing a couple of things. You're confronting your doubt and deciding where that comes from, right? If it's connected to anything in your past. You are focusing on each scenario as if you could play it out. This is very similar to what you do when you're manifesting something. You're playing out the scenario, and then you feel the actual sensations of it, what it would be like if you were there. So sort of play it like a movie, or read it as if it's a paper, and on paper you can sort of see it handed to you. And then call your heart out. Become aware of any physical sensations as you work through each scenario. And then sort of at the very end, release your heart as if it's a little puppy. I'm thinking of those movies, where they would have like two owners. I think one was called Buddy or something. Bud, I don't know, but there's like the bad guy owner and then there's the nice kid owner, and they're both saying the dog belongs to me, no, the dog belongs to me. And the judge sort of says, well, we'll let the dog go to who it really wants to be with. And they both call the dog, and then the dog goes running right to the one it really wants to be with. Well, you can sort of imagine that your heart in your mind's eye has the capacity, like a little puppy, to go running to the one it really wants. And even if you have some fear, because maybe that fear is partially excitement. It's like, I'm going to take a risk, but it's a risk that I know is going to be good for me. It makes me excited. Not anxious in a bad way, but more like anxious in a really good way, because I know it's a change in the right direction for me. It's stepping toward my path, whatever. So try that. That was similar to the advice that I gave her. I was, of course, typing it out. But your heart really does know. You have an internal knowing, and that heart knowing is important. When it comes to, doubting anybody, we all, I think, need to be diligent in a way that protects ourselves. So when you're sort of, I'm not saying be critical or skeptical of the whole world, because I think that's not a place to live in. I like to basically trust but verify. I'd rather live in a place that is trusting, because I feel like that's more in alignment with love. However, I think we have to have self-love first. And so I sort of look at my doubt of others as a protective barrier that is really in my own best interest, protecting my heart. So I'm not skeptical in a bad way of everyone or distrusting of everyone, but just sort of in a healthy way. And again, I think you can deal with that kind of doubt by asking questions directly to the person you're doubting. I'm remembering not too long ago, a man had come to my house to wash my windows. He needed money for his rent. And I wanted to be helpful. I didn't have a lot of money to offer in terms of cash, but I had some. And I said, look, you don't have to do all my windows. I can't really afford to give you $100 to wash all my windows, but I have $20. You can wash like some of them, $20 worth of them. And he was disappointed, but I was just honest. I said, that's what I can afford. Now, later on, I saw him, I don't know, a couple weeks later, up at the local, sort of like a drugstore where, people get prescriptions. And he said hi to me, and he said, listen, I need money to fill a prescription. And, I know you've been so kind, I can come back and do some of your windows. I just got out of the hospital. He was wearing a tag on his hand. And I went in and I said, well, I'll be back with some cash. So I went in and I did get him money, and I came back out, and then I just sat down next to him, and because I had doubts, like part of me was afraid or worried that he was, sort of like conning me, or just wanted the money for something bad, like maybe drugs or whatever. And I'm not making judgments, but anyway, I sat with him, and basically I just asked him the question. I said, well, tell me what is going on with your health. And he told me a little bit, told me the medicine he needed and how he'd been in the hospital. And then I just said, I need you to know that I'm a healer, and that the last thing I would ever want my money to go to is to somebody who is hurting themselves in any way. And so I trust you and I'm giving you this money, but I really want it to be something that is helpful and healing for you. And I feel like this is that same kind of barrier of saying, like, I trust you and I want to go with my heart. I want to be helpful. But by me asking the question first and getting an answer, and then by me really just going ahead and being honest about what my hesitation was and why I asked him the question, why I said that. I don't want to be somebody that is unkind or treats people unfairly. I think that people who are homeless already have it pretty bad. And I want to be compassionate. I also have, whether that's societal or whatever, or whether it was an instinct, but I had some doubts. And so when you have doubts with somebody, if it's safe, ask questions and then just be honest about your doubts, or what your reservations are. That's an idea anyway. So, yeah. There's an issue in here about judgment, really, right? Like being falsely accused, which I'm not going to go into. I think that'll come out in another time, another way. But I think false accusations can be really harmful and hurtful. And I think that story is fascinating, that it just sort of said that after 7 years of her being a horse and having to haul everyone about, after her going through that self-doubt and being basically framed, that her son comes back and they live happily ever after. I'm like, there's part of the story missing there, right? Like, I don't think she just jumped from 7 years of servitude and being falsely framed for something right into happily ever after. So I'm curious about that part of the story and how Rhiannon, as a goddess energy, would have handled that, because I think there must have been some sort of, what would we call that, making amends that would need to happen, and then she can forgive him and live happily ever after. Or maybe she learned a lot by being a horse. I don't know. Okay. Spirit, can we please have one card from the language of letting go? There it is, by Melody Beatty. Showing vulnerability. Today I will disclose who I am to someone with whom I feel safe. I will risk being vulnerable, even though I've always held back from doing so. God, help me to show people who I really am, and not who I think they want me to be. It's interesting about vulnerability. We connect with people, truly connect with people, not through our strengths. We connect with people deeply through our vulnerability. It's hard to be vulnerable. It feels scary because we're afraid of judgment. We're afraid, we have self-doubt. or we're afraid that they're going to judge us. But the truth is, there's great strength in being able to be vulnerable. And there's great connection, true connection, in being vulnerable. It's in our collective humanness that we feel understood and seen. And I mean, it's great to get accolades and attention. But you know what? Even when I got the very best, like, people, I was a young teacher, and people were just like, wow, you're so amazing, all this stuff. And I didn't feel amazing. I felt, I've always felt, and people who are quite successful will say that there's a part of them that always feels like an imposter. No, I'm not really. That's the irony. You know, it's kind of what makes somebody who's successful but manages to stay humble. It's because they stay in touch with that vulnerability, with their humanness. They don't set themselves apart. You know, I think about people like Robin Williams, you know, such a successful, beautiful human being. And when we are not comfortable showing our vulnerability, you know, I mean, he did in many ways. I'm not saying he didn't, but I'm also thinking that when we self-doubt to such a degree that we feel like we can't be vulnerable, like, that's very isolating, and so isolating that then you can start to feel really disconnected from everyone. Like, I can't let anybody know that I feel this terrible, or that I have this vulnerability, or that I feel afraid or weak, or you know, it's kind of a maybe a male characteristic, a divine masculine trait, that needing to be strong and not show weakness, like have your armor that can't be pierced, needing to stay all the time in a place of rationality and control and stability. But we can never, like, truly love or touch the heart of somebody who's wrapped up in all that armor, who's not vulnerable. To love, oh my God, that is such a vulnerable thing to do. Think about it. To truly love, you know, why do we get so darn hurt? We get hurt because you're vulnerable enough to say, here's my heart. I want to share it with you. And you risk in that moment of being vulnerable, somebody to say, I don't feel that way about you, or I don't want your heart. Ouch. But if we never risk sharing that or being vulnerable in that way, we can never have true connection. We can think we fall in love with somebody, but what are we really falling in love with? Maybe we're falling in love with an image. I'm thinking about all the false masks, you know, it comes out in tarot readings all the time, right? Somebody is wearing a false mask. And I'm thinking that the masks that we wear often to hide those areas that we're most vulnerable in. That in the course of growing up from being children, we keep building more armor and building more masks. And then somebody comes along, well, hopefully many people come along that you can be vulnerable with and really open yourself up to. And as you do that, there's the most precious gift within, right? And some people, they're not going to resonate. You know, they don't want your love. You shouldn't want to give it to everybody after all. You know, I think I used to be kind of like that. Because when you're a lover, you see beautiful things in all kinds of people. Anyway, thank you, Spirit. I think those were good messages today. Add anything that you resonated with, your ideas and thoughts. How did these cards resonate for you? Rhiannon, doubt. And vulnerability, showing vulnerability. For an affirmation for your journal today or throughout your day, you may just want to say, it is safe for me to be vulnerable. It is safe for me to share vulnerable parts of myself with people I trust. I mean, it goes back to trust. And remember that trust is built over time by exposing a bit more and a bit more. If you watch the trust video, I talked about the little prince and the fox and getting closer and closer over time. So trust is built over time as we expose more and more of our vulnerabilities with each other. That's what's truly precious. I really think so. I think what makes us beautiful and unique is just as much our vulnerabilities, our quote unquote flaws, because our flaws actually become our strengths once we know how to sort of embrace them, heal them, work with them. That's the way we connect with other people, truly, not through our strengths. In our strengths, we stay competitive. In our strengths, we're trying to best each other. Often, maybe not always. But in our vulnerabilities, that's where we learn our compassion. That's where our connection is. Yeah. So today I will disclose to someone with whom I feel safe. I will disclose who I am with someone I feel safe. Yeah. I will show people who I really am and not who I think they want me to be. I will not doubt myself. Okay, that's it. That's it for today. Happy healing. I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Tomorrow is the 11th, which is an eclipse. So, oh, and I think it's the end of Lionsgate, which is also a big deal. Well, it's the end of the most intense time of Lionsgate. And by the way, oh my gosh, going back to this for a second, Lionsgate is where we get the opportunity to do some really deep healing and to open up our heart chakras for some healing. So I was doing some work with that. And, you know, you might want to work with the vulnerability piece of that. Not in that you're trying to be only strong or only good, but really saying it's safe for me to be authentic. It's safe for me to be who I am. It's safe for me to share my vulnerabilities with people I trust. Yeah. And that way, you know, you're using this last day of the really most intense parts of the energy anyway. Okay. Now goodbye. Have a great day. Happy healing.